We're in the middle of this quiet revolution. It's not happening in some fancy lab or an operating room. It's happening right on our phones, on our wrists, and up in the cloud. This is the story of how artificial intelligence and a whole lot of data are coming together to make medicine truly, deeply personal. I mean, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction, right? But this is really the idea that's driving the entire future of healthcare. That little device you wear, the one tracking your steps and your sleep, it's collecting this constant, non-stop stream of data about your body. And AI is getting unbelievably good at finding the really subtle patterns in that data, patterns that might just be the earliest whispers of a disease starting to form. At its heart, this is a fundamental shift in how we approach health. For centuries, medicine has been reactive. You feel sick, you go to the doctor, you get a diagnosis, and then you get a treatment. It's usually a one-size-fits-all model, and it almost always happens after a disease has already got a foothold. But AI, well, it just flipped the whole script. The goal is to be proactive, to spot risks before symptoms ever show up. It's personal because it's looking at your unique data. And it's all about early-stage detection, because that's when we can actually do the most good. But here's where it gets really wild. This isn't just about finding the same old diseases, only faster. AI is actually forcing us to rethink what a disease even is. We're moving away from these fixed, static labels and starting to see illnesses as what they really are: dynamic, evolving processes. This gets right to the heart of it. It's from a groundbreaking study in Nature Medicine, where researchers used an AI model to look at data from thousands of multiple sclerosis patients. And their conclusion? The old way of just boxing MS into these rigid categories, it just doesn't match what the data is telling us. For years, if you were a patient with multiple sclerosis, you'd get diagnosed with a specific subtype, like relapsing or progressive. And these labels, they pretty much decided your treatment and what you could expect. But they were super broad. They couldn't possibly capture the unique journey of every single patient. It was kind of like trying to describe a flowing, changing river by just looking at a few still photographs. The new AI model, though, sees MS as a continuum, as a fluid process. It identifies 4 key dimensions, things like physical disability, brain damage, inflammation, that kind of stuff. So instead of a fixed label, a patient's condition is described as a specific state within this system. It's a huge shift from a static photo to a full motion video of a patient's health. It lets us get a truly dynamic and personal understanding of the disease. Okay, but for an AI to pull off these incredible feats, it needs fuel. And that fuel is data. We're talking massive, continuous streams of data about our daily lives. And this brings us to the engine behind this whole revolution, and also its biggest challenges. The key concept here has a bit of a fancy name: digital phenotyping. But all it really means is creating a digital fingerprint of your health by analyzing the data from your phone and your watch. We're talking about your heart rate, your sleep patterns, how many steps you take, even the way you move or type. It's a real-time digital reflection of your physical and even your mental state. So what can you actually do with all this data? Let's take a look at a recent study from Google Research. Right at the top, you see strong links to things a doctor would measure, like your glucose levels. No surprise there. But look down towards the bottom. See those fainter bars in yellow and green? Those represent data from wearables, things like your daily steps and your resting heart rate. The fact that they are even on this chart is huge. It shows that our daily habits, captured by our devices, have a real, measurable link to this serious condition. This right here is digital phenotyping in action. These charts compare people who are insulin sensitive, that's the IS on the left of each chart, with those who are insulin resistant, or IR. So on the left, you can see pretty clearly that as people become more insulin resistant, their average resting heart rate tends to creep up. And on the right, what happens? Their average daily step count goes down. These are subtle signals, collected passively by a watch, that are directly tied to a major medical condition. Of course, this is way easier said than done. To make this really work at scale, we have to get over some massive hurdles. I mean, how do you keep a device running 24/7 without the battery dying? How do you get data from a Fitbit and an Apple Watch to speak the same language? And the big one, the elephant in the room, how do we make sure all this deeply personal data stays secure and private? These are the real-world problems that have to be solved before this revolution can really go mainstream. Now, this whole data-driven approach isn't just for early detection. It's also getting ready to completely reimagine the way you interact with your doctor. AI is moving to the front lines of clinical care. So how would this actually work? Well, imagine an AI system called GAMI. The idea is that instead of a nurse or a doctor taking down your initial history, you'd first have a text-based conversation with this AI. And then it would take that entire conversation, synthesize it, and present it on an organized dashboard, the clinician cockpit, for a human doctor to look over. To do this effectively, the AI uses a format that every single doctor on the planet is familiar with, the SOAP note. S is for subjective, that's the patient's story, what you tell it. O is for objective, that's the hard data, the vitals and test results. A is for assessment, the possible diagnoses, and P is for plan, the proposed next steps. The AI organizes the whole conversation into this structure, which makes it incredibly fast and efficient for a doctor to review. And the AI's process is remarkably sophisticated. It starts with broad history taking, just like a human doctor would. But then it moves to what's called DDX validation. It actually forms a list of possible diagnoses and then asks you specific, targeted questions to either rule them in or rule them out. And finally, it wraps it all up by summarizing everything and building that SOAP note for the doctor. So, all of this leads to the most important question of all. If an AI can understand disease in a totally new way, if it can analyze our daily data, and if it can even conduct the initial diagnostic conversation, then who is ultimately in charge? That phrase, the AI will see you now, is getting closer and closer to reality. In a recent landmark study, researchers put the GME system to the test against human clinicians in a simulated, text-based environment. And, well, the results were pretty startling. What you're looking at here is the diagnostic accuracy of that initial assessment. Under the specific conditions of this study, GAMI got it right nearly 82% of the time. Now compare that to the primary care physicians and the nurse practitioners who took part. This doesn't mean the AI is smarter than a doctor, not at all. But it might mean that it's more thorough, maybe less prone to some of the common cognitive biases we humans have, and it can process a patient's history without ever getting tired. But higher accuracy on a test doesn't automatically mean better care. It brings up this profound ethical and practical question. When a decision is made, especially if it's a wrong one, who is responsible? The person who programmed it? The hospital that uses it? The AI itself? The answer is absolutely critical. And this brings us right to the final crucial takeaway. The model that's being proposed is one of asynchronous oversight. The AI is an incredibly powerful assistant. It can gather information and draft assessments, maybe even more accurately and efficiently than a human can in some situations, but it is not the decision maker. The human doctor provides the oversight, the human doctor makes the final call, and ultimately the human doctor retains accountability. This isn't about replacing doctors. It's about creating a powerful new partnership. The real question for our future is, how do we best manage it?